Now, a year ago, Jerome Powell delivered a stark warning to fight persistently high inflation. The Federal Reserve would actually continue to raise the sharp interest rates and bring some cash in to help the people out. Now, what he said about this is that in the form to bring some pain in the form of job losses to weaken the economic growth. Now, Powell spoke at last summer's annual conference at central bankers. The Fed has followed through with this, raising its benchmark rate to 5.4%, its highest level in 22 years. Substantially higher loan rates have followed, making it harder for Americans to afford a home or a car for business or for other finance expectations. Yet so far, broadly speaking, not much pain has arrived. Instead, the economy has powered ahead. Hiring has remained healthy. Co-founding has legions of economists who had forecasted a spike in rates would cause widespread layoffs in a recession. The unemployment rate is also near a record high low, and consumer spending keeps growing at a healthy rate. Now, as Powell and other central bankers return to Jackson Hole this week, the economy's resilience has pushed a new set of questions at the Fed. Is it key rate high slow enough and slow growth to cool inflation? And will it keep on doing this to keep the rate elevated for longer than its expected slow growth to tame inflation? One after another, economists have postponed or reversed their earlier forecast for a U.S. recession. Optimism that the Fed will pull off a difficult soft landing, in which it would manage to reduce inflation to its 2% target, would cause a steep recession, has risen. Nearly 7 in 10 economists polled by the National Association for Business says they're at least somewhat confident that the Fed will achieve a soft landing. This Friday, Powell's keynote speech this year's conference that will be scrutinized for any hints the Fed intends to keep borrowing rates for a prolonged period. Wall Street traders who early this year have predicted the Fed will begin cutting rates now don't even envision any rate cuts until 2024. The average fixed rate on a 30-year mortgage has topped 7%, the highest level in 22 years. Auto loans and credit card rates have also shot up higher and will likely weaken borrowing and consumer spending. That's the lifeblood of the economy. Some economists even say that the higher long-term rates might lessen the need for the further Fed rate hikes because by slowing in credit card rates shot higher and will likely borrow and consumer spending will go down as well. Some economists say that these long-term rates will lessen the fear of the need for this, but even if the Fed imposes no further hikes, it may feel compelled to keep its benchmark rate elevated into the future just to contain inflation and cool it down. It would introduce a new threat. Keeping interest rates high at a level of indefinitely would actually risk weakening the economy so much to cause a downturn. With inflation still impacting many Americans, it's just important for lawmakers to approve extra relief, for the low income specifically. According to Fox, a special tax rebate payment won't even fill the pockets of Alabama residents until later this year. State lawmakers in May passed a rebate plan that called for $150,000
those drugs, and it's great news for that program as a whole because it will save it billions of dollars each year. That should be common sense. And I was disappointed when we passed the IRA that so many Republicans stood with Big Pharma and voted against that bill because it was important on many accounts. Now, as we have heard today, there are two fundamental ways to save Social Security and Medicare for the future. First, we could raise revenue and save Social Security by simply asking the rich to finally pay their fair share, and there's nothing new or radical about that. For decades, our federal tax code has said if you have a higher income, you will chip in more. The radical thing is that right now, Social Security actually works in the opposite way. If you make around $160,000 a year, you are paying the same amount into Social Security each year as a billionaire. Someone can make over 12,000 times your salary, and yet their Social Security tax rate is a fraction of what your rate is. Think about that. Billionaires are putting just half a cent of every $100,000 they make into Social Security.
Jobs, they're real jobs, man. It means we've created more jobs in 2 years than any presidential term in American history. Not just created, but you created it. You did it. The unemployment rate of 3.4%, as I said, is a 50-year low. 800,000 manufacturing jobs.
Now there are 6 days, everybody, until recipients receive the first 2 SSDI payments, which will arrive in March. And according to the Social Security Administration, the first round of payments will be sent out March 1st and will be worth around $914. And they will also have a second payment of the same amount on March 31st. That's equaling a total of $1,800 for the month of March. So the Social Security Administration normally gives out checks once time. And now, when the first of the month occurs on each of the holidays, while recipients receive 2 checks the month prior. Giving people 2 checks in a month, that means the administration will not send a check the following month. But it ensures the recipients receive 12 paychecks a year. And now, eligible couples will receive a March 1st and March 31st payment. And those who live with and provide necessary care to those on Social Security will also receive 2 payments of $500 each in March. And now President Biden has said that some Republicans are threatening Social Security's future, a claim that Republicans have denied, though. The argument ignored key facts about Social Security. This includes that the Social Security trust funds can be depleted as early as 2032, unless Congress acts to prevent that. And without action, starting in 2035, Social Security beneficiaries will get smaller monthly checks, about a 23% cut from what they receive now. And almost 67 million Americans will receive a Social Security payment, totaling $1 trillion. Many older Americans rely on the
And the principles that have been the cornerstone of peace, prosperity, and stability on this planet for more than 75 years were at risk of being shattered. 1 year ago, the report, Kyiv stands strong. Kyiv stands proud. It stands tall, and most important, it stands free.
Now, the U.S. is in full tax season. They're in full swing this year. It kicked off January 23rd, everybody. Not only that, but the IRS will be receiving and processing tax returns from companies and individual taxpayers for the fiscal year of 2022. So that means people can get stimulus pretty fast. If you don't ask me, well, here's the reason why. At the very least, the Earned Income Tax Credit reduces the amount of tax owed. At best, the low-income people who have little or no income tax liability can receive the total credit in the form of a tax refund. But many states are also sending and creating new tax credits to provide extra inflation relief to their residents. The Connecticut governor has recently held a news conference to announce a new budget proposal that he will present to the General Assembly this month. This proposal will include a plan to increase Connecticut's Earned Income Tax Credit from the current rate of 30% to the federal rate of 40%. Increasing the rate will provide an additional $45 million in state tax credits to approximately 200,000 qualifying low-income people. Above the amount they are currently receiving under the program, people can get a lot more. Families will generally receive 95% of all the earned income that the tax credit dollars creates. And this is just one of the several tax relief measures that Governor Lamont will include in his upcoming budget proposal. Early this month, he announced it will include a plan to restore the pass-through entity tax credit to its original level, enabling small business owners to save money by claiming a credit that's even larger than the returns. The governor plans to announce additional tax relief measures, including those targeted towards the middle, lower class workers in the coming days, everybody. And key economic indicators such as retail sales and historic job gains are painting the picture of a robust economy that shows few signs of slowing down. But smaller than expected drop in January inflation has some economists worried that the Fed is going to prolong its interest rate hikes, which could tip the economy into recession